Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Joe.
Everything is going well. You had a good holiday. I hope this is our first edition of This Week at the Communist Party this year. So, hey, a lot's been happening, Scott. We got still DC is crazy town, and Trump is still acting a complete fool. The government is totally shut down. I mean, totally. Well, not totally, but almost. And tomorrow will be the mark the longest amount of time that the government has been shut in history. Today it's tied. And now he's talking about using emergency powers of the presidency to build a wall. He's going to take money from the military budget or from somewhere and build it anyway, or so that's saying.
Take money from funds that are supposed to go for disaster relief, including in California, for
the fire, and Puerto Rico for the hurricane.
Build that racist monstrosity of a wall.
Is this another step towards dictatorship?
I mean,
is that an overstatement?
It certainly looks like it. Now, I've seen a number of people on social media suggesting parallels to the Reichstag fire.
Well, that's a bit much.
That may be an exaggeration, but this idea of claiming emergency powers to do something that is deeply unpopular with the people is, I would say it's certainly an offense to democracy at the very least.
I heard somebody on TV this morning said that when fascism comes to America, it won't come with troops on Pennsylvania Avenue. It won't come from the radio and TV stations and the internet being occupied by the military. That's not the way it's going to happen. This person said that it will happen slowly, incrementally, by the slow but steady erosion of democratic rights, so that one day you'll wake up, there'll be all these quantitative changes, and it will result in a qualitative shift towards anti-democracy. I wonder if that's accurate or not, but whether it is or not, it's very, very dangerous with respect to what they're trying to do. They're appealing to their base, and they're doing a damn good job at it. I read this piece by Tucker Carlson the other day, and you wrote a response to it where he's going after the ruling class, and he's talking about their predatory nature and how they're exploiting working people, and they don't care, whether it's he said, you got poor people in Detroit, and you got poor people in the rural areas of Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and Alabama, and there's not much a difference in terms of rich.
He takes this approach that sounds very almost progressive at first, talking about poverty and the ruling class and the funding wars to make the world safe for banking. But when it comes down to it, what he's really talking about is, how has this impacted male-dominated families? He talks about the decline of male wages, and the fact that women now make more than men, and so they don't want to get married to men who make less than them. So it's like this using
defense of patriarchy, it sounds like.
Yeah, using the discourse of class, but lacing it with this poison, this divisive poison of patriarchy. So I think this is something we got to be aware of. More and more, I think the fascist-leaning forces, the deeper we get into the crisis of capitalism, the more the fascists are going to start trying to masquerade as partisans of the working class, to try to win some of the working class to their side, and we have to be aware of it.
Well, they've been doing a good job at it. Trump appealed to working people in his run for the presidency. If you listen to Bannon, he's always talking about the effect of all of this on his family, and and working people, generally. He's arguing against the Davos crowd and the globalists, and so on and so forth.
But we know that the only solution to the crisis of capitalism, generalized crisis to capitalism itself, to all of its problems, is socialism, right? And the only way to get to socialism is by the unity of the working class. So anything that takes away from that unity, that breaks that unity, that threatens that unity, keeps us from getting to socialism and consolidates, furthers the power of the capitalist class.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because I've heard some people argue that instead of talking about left, right, we should be discussing top, bottom. You got this rich plutocracy that's exploiting at the top, that's exploiting poor and working people at the bottom. And that rather than, discussing these issues of patriarchy and gender and race and LGBTQ, rights, that we should be more focusing on the top plutocracy issues rather than all of these other kinds of questions, and that will unite, and then we can move forward to.
I think that's wrong. I think anytime that we separate, so the fundamental division for me, in a certain sense, is equality versus inequality, right? If we try to separate racial and gender equality from economic justice, we're playing the game of the ruling class.
How so?
As I see it right now, there are these two wings of the ruling class. You've got one wing, you might call it the liberal bourgeoisie, whatever, who are promoting a vision of equality perhaps for women, for people of color, but that's completely disconnected from the understanding that capitalism is what propagates these inequalities. So it's a non-class understanding of inequality there. On the other side, you have these neo-fascist forces who are all too happy to talk about, the attack on the working class, we need to help working people. But they're using that as a vehicle they mean working class white men, basically. So they're using that as a vehicle for white supremacy, for male supremacy. Adopting either one of those positions, that's their game. I think our position has to be that they're indissociable. The advancement of the working class, the power of the working class, comes from equality. We can't fight for the working class without fighting for equality for all people, racial equality, gender equality, equality for LGBTQ people. It's all part of the same struggle.
Right. So, and by the way, 51% of the working class are women. So
and worldwide, most of the working class is not white.
By the way, and so to discuss class issues, you have to take up because there is a racial and gender social division of labor, right?
Yep.
In this country, and so you have the class struggle, but then you also have the struggles of these people who suffer extra inequality because of who they are. And
and here's the basic thing for me. We've always said an injury to one is an injury to all. So even just looking within the working class, if uh, a working class man sees that women are being subjected to extra oppression, that injures them. He has to, it is in his interest to fight against that. Right? That's where unity comes from. That's what solidarity is. So,
and without that, the class will remain divided, and his long-term wages and health benefits will be affected, and we'll never get to where we want to go, which is a new society. And as it is the case with gender, so it is with race and nationality, and so on and so forth. By the way, speaking of this issue, there's a big march next week in Washington, led by the women's movement. It's the second or third anniversary of the big march on Washington after Trump's inauguration. And so we'll be there, and we encourage all of our friends and allies. And even if you don't like us, we still encourage you to be there.
Just come and stand somewhere else. There's
right.
Plenty of room.
Right, because it's really important for us to get organized, and unorganized and divided, we are in big trouble. So what else do we have on the website this week, Scott?
We got this is our first show back in the new year. On January 1st, the Cuban people celebrated the 60th anniversary of the victory of their revolution.
Happy birthday, Cuba.
Yeah, happy birthday to a free, sovereign Cuba, whose people are pursuing socialist development, creating a society with unparalleled access to medical care, education. It's really an inspiring thing.
And they have a new constitution. Has it been adopted or not? I know they were debating the issue of whether or not they should have the goal of communism in the country.
There was originally the thought that maybe they would remove the language about communism as the goal of the long-term goal of the revolution. But in a referendum, the Cuban people decided that no, that is the long-term goal, a communist society.
I think they should keep that, because that's my goal, long-term classless society, whenever I think about communism, I think about Star Trek, I want to live in a society where I'm on the USS Enterprise, flying at warp speed, and money no longer exists, and
we'll do them one better, because we're not going to have it's not going to be communism for just a federation against a bunch of other people. It's going to be going to be for everyone.
Right. So we have the article on Carlson. We have an article on our greetings to the Cuban Revolution. We have
the Green New Deal.
Video on the Green New Deal, and we have a new Marxist IQ. So we encourage you to go to our website at cpusa.org, read the articles, give us your comments, let us know what you think about them. And also, before we end, each week we have an action of the week, and an action of the week is a particular issue or struggle that we want to focus our attention on, so that we can have united action. And the action of this week, you might not be surprised to hear, is on ending the government shutdown, and no new money for the wall. We have a petition. You'll be able to find it on our website or on our Facebook page, and we encourage you to sign it, circulate it, get it out. Well, I think that does it, Scott, for this week.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you later, Joe. See you later, everyone.
Have a good one. We'll see everybody next Friday, same time, same station. Have a great week. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye, baby.
Lucia says bye, too.
Okay. Take care.
Take care.